Virgo, Sun, Moon, and Risings. Welcome to your February 2026 astrology forecast. It is now February 8th, so I am a few days late into getting this to you, and I do apologize for that. I'm working on getting these out faster and sooner and quicker, but they do take about 2 to 3 hours each to record, edit, post, all that stuff, and there are 12 of them, so it takes a long time. This is not my full-time job, so it is a little bit slow getting these out to you. This is a big month. We're already, partially almost a third of the way through it. I am going to start at the beginning of the month with this so you can kind of look at the month so far in hindsight, but it is a big month. A lot of the astrologers are, saying that it is one of the biggest months of your lifetime. And I do tend to agree with that. We have some very major things. The two biggest things going on this month are we start eclipse season, which happens, every year, but this one is pretty potent. And we also have the Saturn and Neptune conjunction this month. So those are the two main big things. And the reason the Saturn and Neptune conjunction is so big is because that is kind of a it's definitely once in a lifetime thing, but it actually doesn't happen that often. The Saturn and Neptune do meet up every 35 years, so that's not rare. And they do meet up in Aries. The last time they met up in Aries was in the early 1700s, but they have I think the closest they've been to the 0 degree point, which is where they're meeting up this year, is maybe 4 degrees. And I don't know exactly when that was, but that's kind of like echoes, right? Astrology is patterns. So when they've met up in Aries before, it's kind of like an echo of previous cycles. But at the 0 degree point of Aries, which is a world point, and it is the seeding point of the entire astrological wheel. So anytime two planets come together, it's a new cycle for them. But the 0 degrees of Aries is a new cycle for the entire thing, right? It is 0 degrees Aries is the birthing point. So this is very, very potent. And when you look back in history, there isn't a time that these two planets have met at 0 degrees Aries. So we are not only starting a new cycle, but I think we are starting a new cycle for the next thousands of years. This isn't just, it's not small, let's put it that way. So before we begin, just a little introduction. Hi, I'm Sarah at Life with Training Wheels. If you're new here, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you'll enjoy and stick around. If you're returning, thank you so much for returning. Your support I greatly appreciate. So I'm Sarah at Life with Training Wheels, where I utilize Western tropical zodiac astrology, tarot, and other health and wellness tools such as singing bowls and tuning forks and all different sorts of things, meditation to help guide you to finding your highest and best self, to help guide you, to help you learn about yourself so you can master what you're here to do, who you're here to be, and can take control of your life. You really are in the driver's seat, and a lot of it is about mindset. So I help you identify where you might have any self-sabotaging behaviors, self-limiting beliefs. If there's any victim mentality that you struggle with, I can help you identify those things and really just help you live your best life and to the highest and best good for your soul. So if that's something that sounds like you want to stick around for, a vibe you can vibe with, then please do like, comment, subscribe, interact with this video any way you can so that I keep showing up for you. Okay, now let's go ahead and get into your chart. So before we get into it, I do recommend, first of all, listening to the collective reading. I'll link it up here. I go into the Sabian symbols for the month for the 4 planets that aren't really moving more than 1 degree, because I think the Sabian symbols really give a good overall analysis of what we are meant to be learning throughout the month, especially when, it's a concentrated energy for the month. And those planets are Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, and Chiron. So I encourage you to listen to the collective and then listen to your rising sign first, as the rising sign is what sets up the entire house system, what signs fall into what houses and things like that. So when you listen for that, it really shows more where in your life, what areas of life things are actually going to manifest and show up in. When you listen to your sun sign, it's more listening for like your career, your outward focus of your life, but it can be, you can feel it strongly because it's where you're very focused. And then the moon sign is more about your emotional world and how you might be feeling energies at home. So let's just briefly start from the beginning of the month. So the February 1st is when we started out with a bang, and we had the full moon in Leo, and it was opposing, and that's in your 12th house, and it was opposing all this energy in the 6th house in Aquarius. So first of all, the stellium in Aquarius is pretty rare. We kind of went over that last month as well when they were traveling through Capricorn. But so this is a ton of energy, and we normally don't have like all these personal planets as a stellium because they move at different rates. The Sun, Venus, and Mercury take between 3 to 5 weeks to go through each sign, and Mars takes about 2 months. So to have them all in a sign together as a stellium is pretty big. And then this month they're here with Pluto as well. So this is so much energy that you're starting with in Aquarius in your 6th house at the beginning of the month. Well, what is the 6th house? What does it represent? The 6th house represents your daily habits and routines, your health, your work, your employees, your co-workers, what you do on a day-to-day basis, and how you organize your day-to-day life. And that's why it can have such an impact on both your health and work all at the same time. And then with the full moon, anytime we have planets in opposition, it's asking us to balance, especially these two areas of our life. And the full moon is shining a bright light on what you might be forgetting about, or, it shines a light over here on this area, as well as shines a light over here on anything that you might be missing over here. So the moon in the 12th house was really asking us to lean back into our Leo aspects. So we all have all 12 zodiac signs in our body, in our world, in our existence. So it was asking us to make sure that while we're, spending so much time and energy and focus and attention on 6th house themes, getting stuff done, getting organized, getting, just in it with our day-to-day lives, it was asking you to make sure that your heart is in it. Leo is very very joyful. Leo is a very childlike energy, wants to play, wants to have fun. So making sure that you're not forgetting to infuse your day-to-day activities with that joy, with that creativity, with that sense of fun and awe and wonder that kids have. And to also, Leo is also a great leader and shows a lot of courage. So making sure that you're bringing that into this area as well. And then 12th house is also the house of rest and spirituality. So the full moon was wanting you to make sure that you were taking the time to rest, taking the time to engage in your spiritual practices, taking the time to kind of retreat, do the things that you need to do to remain balanced, not just to work and do, but to make sure you're getting enough sleep, getting enough rest, spending enough time with yourself and with spirit and things like that. Okay, then on February 3rd, we had Uranus stationing direct in your 9th house. So with Uranus stationing direct, number one, it rules Aquarius over here in your 6th house. So you may have felt this energy shift there. But Uranus stationing direct is kind of not a very subtle shift in direction. So you may have felt a lot of energy pick up in your 6th house of health and work and daily routines and habits and things like that. You may have also felt a big shift in your ninth house. If either of these houses have felt like a little stuck or anything like that, you likely would have felt this. So this is the planet of like sudden change, sudden ideas, sudden insight, sudden movement, sudden things happening. It's also the planet of revolution and innovation and things like that. And it's been moving here through your ninth house for quite a while. So this is probably where things have been shaken up and kind of unsteady since 2018. So this is kind of the final push to do the final shakeups that need to happen to set you up in a good way for the remainder of your life, really, because Uranus travels so slow. But the ninth house is your house of belief systems, of higher education, of perhaps teaching, and foreign cultures, foreign people, and long distance travel. So there could have been something showing up for you in one of these areas earlier this month when this station direct. But if nothing happened then, all month long, Uranus will be making a square to each of these planets as they travel through Aquarius, which we'll talk about here in a couple minutes. But so if you listen to the collective reading, this could have some shakeups for everybody in any Taurus-related themes. So finances, value system, resources, things like that. So, there's a lot of that going on the world stage as well. And a lot of revolutionary energy, a lot of, this is information and technology too, Uranus. So, sudden things coming in regards to that. We've had a lot of truths uncovered with the Epstein files and things like that. So that is very representative of this shift in energy as well. But for you personally, it probably would have been felt more in your ninth or sixth house, any energetic shifts. Okay, so next we're going to talk about these stellium of planets here, which I've already mentioned is very rare. So this is really, the house that you're working on this month, along with some others. But as these planets move through Aquarius and into Pisces this month, they are making several conversations. The first of which is they are all going to be making a sextile here to Chiron over in Aries. And Chiron is the wounded healer, right? And Aries is the I am energy. So this is our wounds of where we've stayed small for the sake of others, where we haven't felt comfortable being our full and true authentic selves for some type of reason. And for you, the wound is in your eighth house that you're working on with this I am energy. So what is the eighth house? It is the house of shared resources. So perhaps there's some wound that you have around taxes or investments or sharing resources with significant others or something like that. This is also the house of intimacy, both with yourself and with other people, in the house of transformation. And I think, transformation doesn't easily come without a certain level of intimacy. So it goes very well together. But it's where we hold our fear and our shame and our guilt and things like that. So it's the house of being willing to look at those darker parts of yourself and learning to love and accept them and be able to sit with them and forgive them, and that type of energy, as well as the energy of being able to do that with another and hold space for them, or to love them in all of their yuck, right? We all have yuck. So this is the house of being able to sit with another person in their yuck as well as your own. So each of the planets are making a sextile. Sextile is a very helpful, very gentle energy, very supportive. We've already had Venus and Mercury make this sextile, so bringing perhaps new insights or enlightening conversations and things like that that have made a difference. Or, with Venus, it could be relationships that are supportive of it, or maybe there's some financial aspect that has been supportive of this healing so far. And then we still have, throughout the rest of the month, the sun still needs to make this sextile, as well as Mars. The sun will be really shining a light on the healing, helping you see whatever you need to see, as well as bringing a healthy ego aspect to it. And then Mars is your willpower, your desires, your motivation. So bringing the willpower and the might to heal, to continue that healing work when sometimes it might, not feel good. But now it's going to be like, I really am passionate about digging for the truth of myself and loving myself unconditionally and things like that, or something related to do with finances. So then the other conversation, like I said, that these are going to be making is this square over here to Uranus. And Uranus, or squares, don't always have to be bad. It is a challenging energy, but really all squares are doing is presenting us the opportunity and showing us where we may be misaligned and where we need to make a decision and move forward with something. So it might simply be that we're presented an opportunity of something and we simply need to make the decision to take the opportunity or to decline it. So that can be, as squares can be that subtle of energy. They don't have to be this big, this huge challenge. Sometimes they can manifest that way too, but sometimes it's just you need to make a simple decision, yes or no. So with these squares, there could be, and with this being sudden information, sudden insight, sudden change, it could just be that you're presented with opportunities or things like that this month that you need to make a change on. Maybe there's a higher, an opportunity to teach, or an opportunity to take a class, or to travel, or something like that, and you need to make the decision on if you can fit that into your day-to-day existence at this time, right? Does that work for you? Does it fit? Does it not? But with all the Aquarius energy, it's kind of revolutionary. It's something maybe that hasn't been done. It requires out of the box thinking to figure out how it's all going to work out and stuff like that. And so likewise, Mercury has already made this square, but none of the other planets have yet. Actually, Venus is making the square today, February 8th. So, again, that's information, communication, thought processes, how we think about things. And then Venus is about money, resources, value system, overall values, beauty, creativity, and relationships. So there could be, something between your house of daily routines and belief systems and things like that are getting a little shake up here. And then we still have the Sun and Mars to make this opposition, or this square as well. So, that the Sun squaring might feel a little harder of an energy, and then Mars could feel a little bit harder than Mercury or Venus as well. It could be like an ego check, or Mars can sometimes, although it is our willpower and our motivation and our desire, it's also where we're willing to fight for something. So sometimes there is, can be some aggression or something like that comes out. But it could just be that all of a sudden you're really passionate about something. Like suddenly, something comes up and you're like, I have to do this and I have to do it right now. That could be that type of energy. Then they're each going to make their ingress into Pisces. Mercury already is in Pisces. It entered there 2 days ago on the 6th. And then the rest of the Venus and the Sun are going to make it into Pisces this month as well. Mars is not. So by the end of the month, this tight stellium is going to dissipate. But it still is very, very concentrated and is beautiful. It's a rare thing too. It's rare, and it's something that this revolutionary energy and thinking outside the box and how do we use technology and things like that is something that we are really working on as a collective, and it's where our focus should be. But so as these planets move into Pisces throughout the rest of the month, they are going to eventually be making a conjunction to the North Node. So how they've been traveling so far this year in the stellium is when they were in Capricorn, in your 5th house of joy and creativity and romance and children and things like that, they all made a conjunction with the Sun, which was birthing a new seed. Anytime planets make a conjunction, it's birthing a new cycle, a new a new cycle between those planets. But when it's the sun, it's more heavily focused on whatever the planet is that it's making a conjunction to, right? It's like your ego and your self and you kind of birthing this, planting this new seed, starting this brand new cycle with whatever that planet is. So all your personal planets have started this new cycle, as well as many of them have made conjunctions as well. So they've made their own new cycles in Capricorn, which is a very sturdy energy built to last, in your house of joy and creativity. And then they came in here by the end of the month, last month, to make a conjunction with Pluto, which is the planet of transformation, which hopefully helped identify any areas of your life where you might need to do some cleanup, where you might need to look at those places where you have fear and determine if it's a real fear or not, or if you can let it go. So been doing a lot of like, okay, this is what I've been doing, it's not working, this is what I need to let go in order for there to be clean, fertile soil for these seeds that I've just planted to take hold. Well, now as these planets kind of move farther away from the sun, as this tight stellium starts to break up, we'll start to see the fruit, because right now they're too close to the sun, so we can't see them. So once we can start to see these planets appearing back in the sky, and just energetically and metaphorically speaking, those seeds that we planted should really start to take hold, and we might start to be able to see and make more sense of the new things that are birthing and things like that. And then with this conjunction with the North Node, as they continue to move forward, it's another opportunity to make sure whatever we are birthing, whatever we are starting anew, that we are remaining aligned with our path. And in this case, Pisces, so collectively, Pisces is that like universal love, Christ-like consciousness, energy. It's our spirituality. It is those things. And collectively, I think we're learning with the North Node here to trust in the unknown, to trust that we don't know how God can work all things for good, how connected everything is, and to not necessarily need to have all the details, all the plans worked out perfectly of how we are going to, say, shift into this new timeline, this new, right? Because we all know everything's crumbling, but we're being asked to still just trust in the process, trust that things will be worked out for the highest and best good for all, and that, just to have faith. And for you in particular, this energy is in your 7th house. So to have faith in your partnerships and those very close relationships, and have faith that they aren't going to let you down, and that you don't need to know all the details of the relationships and things like that, that you can just learn to have faith that people will be there for you, and that your communication will be aligned, your relationships and your resources will be aligned, like making sure as these planets come in, they'll be making sure your mindset is aligned on the right track in regards to how you bring yourself to relationships and things like that. Then after that, the personal planets will be making, while they're here in Pisces, they'll be making a trine over here to Jupiter in Cancer. And Jupiter is the ruler of Pisces. So this is beautiful, very, very supportive energy, free-flowing, lots of opportunities, right? Jupiter brings opportunities and abundance and growth, even in its retrograde phase. Sometimes in its retrograde phase, it may be opportunities returning that were passed up before. But so this is a beautiful conversation happening between your 11th house and 7th house. So very social houses. So friends, groups and organizations you belong to, your hopes and dreams for the future. And then 7th house is more your like business partnerships, your intimate romantic partnerships, or your like best friendships, your one-on-one relationships. So there's a lot of making sure that, not making sure, but there's a lot of opportunity and abundance here flowing between these two areas as these personal planets make this trine. So, again, communication, thought processes, ideas, information, values, finances, ego and how you're showing up versus how others are showing up, and then your willpower, your desire, your where you're willing to fight and things like that, and stand up for yourself. So this is kind of beautiful opportunities potentially for abundance coming into your friendships and your relationships. Okay, so then we're moving forward to Friday, February 13th. So we will have Saturn entering into Aries. So that is a big deal. Saturn has been in Pisces for the last 2.5 years. Last year it did enter into Aries and then went retrograde back into Pisces. Well, now it is going to stay in Aries for the next 2.5 years, bringing you, Saturn overall, basically kind of brings us lessons. It brings us where we need to work harder at for a cycle, for a period of time, where we kind of need to get our ducks in a row. That's kind of that type energy where we need to build a stronger foundation, and things like that. And so it has moved now from your 7th house of relationships. So if you've felt some struggle or something like that, or been learning lessons over the last 2 years, that has eased. And now it's into your 8th house of shared resources, finances, that can be taxes, investments, inheritance, how you share resources with a significant other, as well as this is the house of personal transformation. So, you might be doing some more work there over the next 2 years. And then it's also intimacy, right? Like how can we go deep into our own self and look at our fears and shame and guilt and shine light on it and love it and realize we are still valuable people even though we have these things, and like really give ourselves that compassion and that love and that grace, and realizing that we can be seen and loved in our fullness of ourselves. And then with the intimacy, being able to do that for another person as well. This is also the house of like psychology with that transformation, like really getting into your thought processes and things like that. So that is where some of this energy can be focused. But you'll notice right away it makes a conjunction with Neptune as well. And Neptune likewise has been in Pisces for 14 years. And now, last month it moved into Aries, and now it will be in Aries for Aries for 12 to 14 years. It's not going to wobble back and forth either. So Neptune overall can bring, on its more negative aspects, it can bring confusion, cloudiness. It can be where we're seeing things with rose-colored glasses. It can be deception, things like that. So with this in Aries, the energy of I am, it can be like being a little bit unsure of yourself or things like that. And with Saturn, so the negative aspect of these two making a conjunction could be like Saturn can bring some heaviness and Neptune can bring some confusion and things like that. So this could bring some depressive type energy. So just keep that in the back of your mind, not only while this conjunction is super close, but really over the next 2 years while Saturn is in the 8th house, kind of, working with the Neptune energy. But in its highest vibration, and that's what I really want to talk about, and this is something you can keep consciously aware of too, if you feel like you might be slipping into the depression or confusion or whatever. In its highest vibration, Neptune is the planet of spirituality, right? It is the planet of dreaming things, like it's the where we connect to the other realms. It literally rules our dream times. It rules like our daydreaming as well, our ability to have a great imagination. So it's a very creative energy, and it's where we can dream the biggest dreams possible, how the best scenario for all the things we want. And then meeting up with Saturn in its highest and best form brings structure and stability and makes things last. So this coming together at the birthing point of Aries is really helping us take our dream life and ground it into existence, to take on another level, with it being spirituality and things like that, to to really, and the energy of I am, to really embody and understand that we don't need churches or anything else to have a direct connection to source, right? To God, to spirit, the universe, your higher self, whatever you want to call it. We can have that direct connection, that I am. We are the I am. And with Saturn, really learning to embody that, to not just have it be a concept, but to not only feel it, but ground it in and live that way, right? Like, to me, especially with the North Node still being here in Pisces, this is really giving us the opportunity to ground in the Christ-like consciousness, right? And that, you don't have to be a Christian or anything like that to believe in the Christ-like consciousness, right? It's more just living in this compassion and this universal love and realizing that we're one, and like that's the type of attitude that we should be moving from in our day-to-day existence. And so really learning to embody that. And collectively, this is where we're moving, right? This birthing point, this learning to embody that. But for, each of us, and like I said at the beginning, like, I think this shift that we're making, all these power structures crumbling and all the nastiness that's been going on in our society for so long, for definitely the last 100 years, but I really think there's been a lot of ugliness for thousands of years, right? And with this being birthed at the 0 degree point, I really think this is all of those old systems and old structures and ugliness and evil. It's crumbling. And we are at the birthing point of birthing something new, birthing something beautiful, birthing something that is rooted in love and rooted in goodness. And it's going to take hold because it has Saturn here, and it's going to have wisdom. And we're laying the foundation for thousands of years. And wherever this energy is falling in individual charts is where I think you in your lifetime are going to kind of help anchor in this energy. So for you in particular, this is happening in your 8th house. And this conjunction happens right away when, Saturn enters, but it won't be exact to the degree and minute until February 20th. So that's when this energy will be most potent. You may or may not feel this energy strongly right now. Depends on how it hits your chart, but it is something that's going on underneath the surface. And I think this is where you're really meant to lead us into this new world, is in your 8th house. And that doesn't mean that, there's a career shift or anything like that, but that I think you'll be, potentially a thought leader and a leader in general of 8th house themes. So shared resources. So maybe restructuring how we deal with and think about taxes and investments and the stock market, and how we share resources with our, significant others, or perhaps our communities, and, just how we share resources. I think that could be something where you could lead. Or on another aspect, 8th house is also transformation, right? So, and intimacy. So how willing we are to look at our own shadow selves, where we may have done some things that we feel shame or guilt about, and leading the path of repentance, basically, right? And acceptance, and knowing that we're all human and that we all make mistakes, and that doesn't mean we aren't worthy of love or anything like that. So helping to heal that. 8th house is also psychology. So, really helping out with mindset and seeing those shadow aspects and integrating them, because a lot of times the things we do that cause guilt or shame, like, we were just doing things the best we knew how at the time. And with a greater sense of awareness, we may engage in something, a similar situation in a different way, but to recognize that that's us learning and growing, and that we wouldn't be where we are had we not made these mistakes or whatever, and learning how to see the beauty, and then learning how to accept people, accept yourself for all you are, but also learning how to hold space for other people to allow them to be their whole selves and allow them to work on their own timeline and to be willing to be vulnerable with other people, right? There's nothing wrong with vulnerability. It's actually in the vulnerability that we can learn to move forward in a healthy fashion. So you could be a real leader in this area, but it starts with yourself, right? Okay, so then beautifully, right between when Saturn enters Aries on the 13th and when they make an exact conjunction on the 20th, we have on the 17th a new moon solar eclipse in Aquarius at basically 29 degrees, 28 degrees, 50 some minutes. So basically 29 degrees, the final degree, the anaretic degree. So this is a mature degree. This is happening in your 6th house of daily habits, health, routine, work, things like that. And so at the anaretic degree, this is where you have matured in this area. Like you have matured in how to handle your day-to-day habits and routines. You've matured in how you take care of yourself through your health. You've matured in how you engage in your work. And now because you've matured so much, you have new beginnings coming with this new moon, but they are fated new beginnings because it's a solar eclipse. So anytime the full moon or new moon is within about 16 degrees of the north or south node, it produces an eclipse. And with this being conjunct to the north node also brings new things. South node is more about needing to let things go, or if it is bringing new things, it's like things that have been in your awareness before. North node is more like things that are out of your purview that you haven't thought about before. It's something brand new. And so this solar eclipse is bringing these new things to your daily habits, your health, your work, and it's really beautiful. And with it being in between, basically at the same time that Saturn is making this conjunction to Neptune, like it's really going to have, whatever is coming in right now is going to have staying power for the long haul. So whatever new things are showing up for you is really meant to be, right? Because it's with the north node, it's an eclipse, it's a karmic thing that is coming in, or a fated thing that's coming in for you. And with the eclipse happening, it's about a 2-minute eclipse, which apparently translates to this opportunity for new things to show up and like settle in to happen over the next 2 years. So over the next 2 years, as planets engage with this 29th degree of Aquarius, there may be more iterations of this brand new fated thing coming into your life. So you may not feel it right away, and you may not feel it very strongly if you don't have any planets or points interacting here. There will likely still be some new things showing up for you, but depending on how life-changing it is for you will depend on how it is engaging with your personal chart. So if you have any degrees or points in the later degrees of Aquarius or early degrees of Pisces, or in the other fixed signs, so like Taurus, Leo, and Scorpio, in the later degrees there, you will be feeling this more strongly than other people, and whatever new thing is coming in could really change the trajectory of your life in a good way. So that is really exciting. The only other things really are on February 25th. Mercury is going to be stationing retrograde in Pisces in your 7th house. So this would bring, normal Mercury retrograde things like potentials for miscommunication, plans not going the way you set them out to go, mishaps in travel plans in particular, but plans overall. But it gives us a chance to rework things, rethink things before really moving forward. And so this is giving you an opportunity to, maybe rethink things in your relationship, maybe renegotiate things, or if there's something that hasn't been settled or something that keeps coming up, this is a chance to revisit it and really work through it. and things like that. And then February 27th, the last thing, Mercury will be conjunct Venus. So this again is giving new insights, new opportunities, birthing a new cycle, new mindset maybe in regards to your finances and value system and relationships, especially as this is in your 7th house of relationships. So that seems like a good way to end the month. And that is about it for the month of February for you, Virgo, Sun, Moon, and Risings. So if you have enjoyed this, please give me a like, a comment, a subscribe. Let me know what you're most looking forward to this month, what you might be nervous about, how you're already feeling the energy of the month. Any comments you give, I'd love to hear it, how this month is shaping up for you. And again, if you like this content, please give me a like, a comment, a subscribe. Any way you can interact does help my tiny little channel grow, and I greatly appreciate it. Otherwise, have a great month of February, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video.